Hi students, it's Arthur, and we're going to talk about job boards and job descriptions in this module. The assignment related to this is to download and submit a relevant job description for yourself. So what we'd like you to do is to go out and find an interesting role, one that you are interested in. It may not be one that you're quite ready for yet, that's fine. But I do want you to find something that's in your space that's going to be interesting to you for an internship or an entry-level position, depending on kind of where you are in your university career so far. And as I said, it should align with your degree and career objectives. And then what you're going to do is download that and post it to Canvas as a PDF and then answer a couple of questions about that. The rubric is very simple in this particular case. It's a very simple assignment. You need to answer the two questions that are being there. And then the job description has to have certain amount of information, and it must include these four elements: company name, role title, role responsibilities, and required qualifications and education. If any of this information is missing, it will be deducted from your overall score. If you have any questions about that, obviously reach out to me at any time. So job boards, there are a ton of job boards out there. And if you're not familiar with that, there are literally hundreds, which creates a lot of confusion for students and early career professionals because they don't even know which job board to go look at. The good news is it's not that complicated. A lot of these job boards that have popped up are more niche related, but these are some of the bigger job boards out there. And Handshake, of course, at the bottom, LinkedIn are going to be two that we talk about extensively in this class, but Indeed, Glassdoor, and these other sites are certainly open to you. But these are a lot of the primary job boards, but there are also aggregator sites. These aggregator sites will basically kind of scrape job postings on different sites, and they'll kind of post them together. So there's a little value to that, but the thing about the aggregator sites are they're not very reliable in terms of having the most up-to-date job postings out there. Because they're going to be scraping, they may not be very timely, and timing is really important. You need to be very active on job boards in order when you're doing applications, because you really do need to be in the first few days of the job being posted in order to be really seriously considered. A lot of research out there shows that. That doesn't mean you can't get hired if you're late, but it does reduce your odds pretty significantly. So that's why having a job site and getting a profile registered and it sending you information when things get posted will be important, and I'll talk about that in a second. So anyway, just to close the door on the job boards, there's also a ton of niche job boards out there that are either industry specific, functional specific, or regional in nature. And then, of course, company websites. One thing that's kind of popping up and has been out there for a while is pay for sites. So these are going to be sites that you actually have to subscribe to in order to look at specific job opportunities. These are normally for executive level positions and also some very high-end niche positions. However, I would say that if it's a pay for site, it's a warning to you, and I would suggest that perhaps that's not a viable solution. However, do your research. There might be some sites out there that I'm not aware of that might be very relevant. Although anything that asks for money, I would always be very suspect about in job search. So the basic functionality that we're looking for in a job description as we start to look for this in job search, these are going to be an opportunity for you to do searches on these job boards to include filters that are relevant to you, right? You want to obviously focus on positions that are going to be in your space. So all of these job boards have very basic functionality to find the jobs, and then the resulting job description as well for the role, of course. So the filters are typically very standard. As we talked about, you can create profiles and then set up job alerts. So that's what I was talking about a little bit earlier about timing. If you get on these sites, you set up a job search for you, and you can set up an alert or a kind of a robot for you that will basically send you information on whatever interval you want, daily, weekly, are typical options. And that way you can actually get a job posting when it is kind of early in its posting history. Some of these job boards also provide additional things such as company research, company reviews, news, job search hints and tips and tricks and those kinds of things. A lot of those are very generic, so and for all kinds of professionals. So sometimes a lot of the advice that they give out there may not be appropriate for students or early career professionals, but some of them offer very good information. You just have to be wary of what you're reading and making sure it applies to you. So now when we talk about, now that you started to kind of figure out some roles, once you start looking at the job postings, the job postings will include information, and the most important piece of which is going to be the job description. And this is where we're asking you to complete for this assignment, is to get a job description for a role that you're interested in. So the basic purpose for a job description is listed here. It's going to clarify the expectations for job seekers. It's going to tell you what the qualifications and skills are needed for this performance or for the job. It may highlight performance metrics, things that you'll be responsible for, such as scope of the job, what key performance indicators or KPIs you'll be responsible for. But not all JDs will have that, and I'll talk more about that in a second. Job descriptions are also there for legal compliance. They'll post their for instance, they'll post their policies on hiring in terms of diversity, in terms of harassment, things of that sort that are publicly available on their websites, but they usually post a lot of this information too on their job descriptions and the job postings. And then the other thing the job descriptions do for an organization that you may not know about, it's also for organizational planning and structure. However, I will tell you that most, and not most, maybe perhaps, but many job descriptions are not written very well, or they haven't been updated, or they simply do not reflect what the role requirements are like in real life. So a job description, I would say, for you is always going to be a starting point. And as you start to progress into the process of looking for a position, a job description will be one of the foundational elements, but you need to talk to the organization. So we'll talk more about informational interviewing and talking to people who are doing these jobs now and finding out what they really do and if that aligns with the job description. In addition to that, it'll hopefully enable you to build some great interview questions that you can use at the end of the interview or as you're going through the interview process and networking with people in that organization to ask really thoughtful, reflective questions that relate to the position. So components of a good job description are here, and as I mentioned before, job descriptions aren't always written very well, so some of these may not be on the job description that you see. So a lot of the job descriptions will start about us, an overview. This is usually a template of an organization and kind of what they do and the space they're in, type of products they have, the markets they're in, et cetera, et cetera. Then we'll get more specific information about the job. Which will be the job or the role title, the job format and type. Company information usually comes with the About Us and the overview section, and then the job responsibilities, what your primary activities are going to be related to and why, and then what requirements and qualifications that you need and the skills that you need. So when we talk about job descriptions here, really we want to inform you how to use your job description, these job descriptions in your career planning and job search process. So first of all, when you start to look at job descriptions for roles that you're interested in, make sure you save them. So copy and paste and save these jobs, particularly and most importantly, if you are applying for these positions. Because these job postings don't stay up indefinitely. As soon as they've stopped, a lot of companies will pull them. So if you go back and try to find it using a link that you've used previously, you may find that that link is broken because they've taken down the job description from an earlier posting. So it's always important that you copy and paste them into another document and save them in some way. It's also great for using AI to evaluate the job descriptions and multiple job descriptions in order to compare and contrast them for keywords and responsibilities that may be important for you in your planning process. So always make sure you do save them. So the other thing, though, of course, is about when you're looking at a job description, this is going to help you evaluate your fit against that job, the level and responsibilities, the experience, skills, and the education required. And think about how these align with your goals. Now, we talked about goals, and we will talk more about specifically how to figure out what you want to do and where you want to do it using the marketing plan. And I highly recommend you, if you haven't seen that after this, go take a look at the marketing plan module resources and the video that accompanies that. Because what you're going to want to do is use these the job description and the information in it to kind of evaluate where you are. You're going to use this information, as we said, to target your marketing tools and identify gaps that you may need to address sooner rather than later. When you take a look at the skills required, you may find that you may have a gap. And so you have time, hopefully, here at UNCW to fill that gap as best you can. The other thing that you want to think about, too, is transferable skills. Most of you will not have had internships or have not worked professional positions in favor of, obviously, part-time roles because you're in school. There are a lot of skills that you have that are definitely transferable in terms of leadership, problem solving, teamwork, collaboration, dealing with difficult people or customers. Those are all skills that most of you have when you're working your part-time jobs. Those of you who come from a military background may have a broader set of skills as well. And you think to yourself, "Man, these don't apply to my financial analyst role or my marketing coordinator role that I want." That's actually far from the truth. The real truth is these skills teach you how to interact with people, how to work in a professional environment, even if it is in a restaurant versus an office setting. And all of these things are really important to help you create your own skill set and be able to create stories that tell how working in a restaurant can help you in a finance role. And learning how to do that is an important part of this. And you can use AI for this as well. You can go to AI, upload the job description, tell it the kind of jobs that you've had, and talk about how do I identify transferable skills from this waitressing position, and how would that relate to this finance role, for instance. And AI can help you identify how to connect the dots between your current part-time role and that future role that you want. In addition to that, you want to make sure that your experiences are aligned with responsibilities, and you want to focus on the achievements that you've had, that how they potentially could match up with that job description as well. One thing that's very interesting about this is the question, well, Arthur, I don't, qualify for 100% of this role, so should I apply? A rule of thumb is if that you're kind of in the 60 to 70% range of qualifying for the role in an early career type position, I would go ahead and apply. What's interesting, and why I mentioned the interesting comment, is the interesting thing is that between men and women, there's a very different approach they have on whether what percentage they feel like they need to qualify before they would apply for a position. Men, statistics show, they could be as low as 50% qualifying for the role, and men will apply for the role. Women, conversely, are much more thoughtful about this, much actually to their detriment, but most women actually wait until they're about 80% or more qualified before they actually think that they would apply. And that actually is a reason why some women kind of eliminate themselves unnecessarily before they even get into the job search race, let's say. So for you women out there, be aggressive. If you really are interested in the role and you meet the qualifications by at least, I would say, 50 or 60%, go ahead and apply. You never know what might happen. Before we close out on this topic, I want to talk about job fraud or job scams. So this has become extremely prevalent, and with the advent of AI, unfortunately, this is going to become something that's a bit more prevalent, I think, because a lot of the things that we look for in job scams are easily found in the past, but now with AI being out there, I think the bad actors will be able to create much more creative ways to potentially get your personal information. And of course, that's the objective of any kind of scam. So basically, there are red flags that you should look for. This is a good list of those things. But the job scams are becoming more sophisticated as we go. I know several people who have been impacted it and several who have actually lost money due to this. So essentially, take a look at this list. And the thing is, if they ask for your personal information before you actually get on site, it's definitely going to be something that you need to be extremely wary of, and it's very likely a scam because most companies will not ask for any personal information until you've been hired. And when you've been hired, that means that you've gone through a process, you've actually talked to people. One of the points you'll see here is they won't meet you in person. So until you've validated everything, make sure you don't give them any of your personal information, such as your social security number, your bank account, anything like that. It's very likely to be fraud. And that's it for this topic. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out in the discussion group or reach out to me directly. Thank you very much.